Vanessa Milam, and I did my paper on the short story, The Open Boat by Stephen Crane. The title of my paper is Naturalism in the Open Boat. The story, The Open Boat, is an account of an event that actually occurred in the author's life, Stephen Crane. There are four characters in the open boat: the correspondent, the oiler, the cook, and the captain. These four men are stuck on a tiny boat in the middle of the ocean during a storm. Throughout the story, the men are trying to figure out a way to get to the shore, or to get someone to come in and help them to get to the shore. Naturalism in literature means that nature, in some way, shape, or form, shows an indifference to the lives of human beings. In other words, nature shows no regard, no concern, no respect or sympathy for the lives of human beings. I think this theme is reflected in this story, and the two examples that I use in my paper to prove this are the wind and the waves. The men have been on a boat for a while, and so of course they're wet. And this is a tiny boat, so this boat can capsize at any minute. The waves are rolling along, and the waves are continuously splashing the men and splashing water into the boat. This makes their struggle to the shore that much more difficult, because the boat is that much more harder to control. To add to that, the wind is blowing. Again, the men are wet. So adding wind to that makes the men colder, which makes them weaker, which makes it harder for them to get to the shore. Also, because the wind is blowing, the boat is moving in various directions. Sometimes northeast, sometimes southeast. And there are times that neither one of those directions are conducive to where the men need to go to get to the shore. Again, making the journey that much more difficult. These items, which seem to be causing most, if not all, of the struggles of the men, in a weird way actually start to help the men. For example, in one scene, the men hold up the captain's overcoat while the wind is blowing, and the wind pushes the men further along to the shore. In another scene, the correspondent gets stuck in a current, and the waves actually knock the correspondent out of the current and closer to the shore. Had that not happened, the correspondent would have been stuck and may have died. Also, once the men decide to abandon the ship and swim to shore, the waves actually help push the men along to get to the shore, because the men were too weak to actually do it themselves, from not having rest and from being wet and cold. The waves and the wind were not deliberately trying to hurt or help the men. In fact, the wind and the waves were behaving as they normally would on a day-to-day basis. This behavior is a reflection of the indifference of nature to the lives of human beings, because nature does not show any concern, regard, or sympathy for the struggles of human beings. Nature doesn't know or doesn't care if you're struggling, or how long you've been struggling, or how much longer you have to struggle. They're just going to behave the way nature wants to. And this, I think, reflects naturalism.